What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the film Bring Her Back. It is a new horror film. It's gory, it's gross, but is it scary? Is it good? Well, you're about to find out. I'm joined today by Vinny Albano.
Hello.
What's up, Vinny? Do you like this movie?
I loved it.
Sweet.
I loved it. Straight to the point, I'm very excited to talk about it and just go dive right into it because this was honestly one of my favorite watches of the year thus far. And hopefully you feel the same way.
Yeah, I also feel very positive about this. I'm a pretty big horror buff generally, but I'm also, that makes me very critical of it a lot of the time, where I feel like I sort of understand the genre and the conventions often don't surprise me as much as I feel like they want to or they're trying to. This is a movie that subverted a lot of my expectations, I feel like. I'm blanking on the names of the directors, the two brothers. Do you?
Danny and Michael Philippou. I used to watch them on YouTube. Rocka.
Right.
So good.
Yeah, I knew they were on YouTube, and I've probably seen some of their stuff, but I really liked their prior film, Talk to Me. I thought that was very good, and I loved like the third act of that movie, and that's one of my biggest critiques of horror movies usually is the third act kind of falls apart, whatever. We'll talk about that when we break into this movie a little bit more. But generally, I like these guys. I like what they're doing. They bring a really kind of unique flair to the horror scene right now, especially in its gruesomeness. I think these are some of the most like bloody, nasty fucking movies that I've seen in the past couple of years. And yeah, I think overall I feel very positive about this. Just to give you the brief, letterbox recap.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm very much the same way. I didn't see Talk to Me. However, this was everything I really wanted, to be honest, aside from very minor flaws. It is gory, it's brutal. There's so many unsettling moments and cringeworthy gore. And that's perfect. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing seeing these guys, make psychopath Ronald McDonald videos on YouTube that I used to watch in like middle school.
That was them.
Yeah,
I've seen those.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That was them. And they went from that to now working with A24 and making these huge budget horror films, which is incredible. It's just so inspiring to see. And they have such, like you said, a unique voice and personalities outside and behind the camera, or in front of the camera too, as well, when during their YouTube videos and whatnot. It's incredible.
Why don't we talk about just some of the specific things that we love about this movie? I think rather than break it down like piece by piece and go through the whole thing, let's just talk about like the stuff that we've really, really enjoyed about it, and then we can kind of transition and get into specifics when it comes to it. The first thing I want to bring up about this movie that I adore is everything about Ollie. I love that kid. He's a complete unknown actor as far as I can tell. I believe it's Jonah Wren Phillips, I want to say is his name. Maybe do a quick little fact check for me. But regardless, he is excellent in this movie. And he doesn't even do that much talking, but man, can that kid act with his face. And what they do to him in the makeup department is crazy. And I almost feel like Ollie is so compelling as a presence in the movie that the rest of it is not, which I guess is sort of a pro and a con, because every time that kid is on screen, I'm locked in. And then every time he's not there, I'm like, oh, I really want to see what's going on with that kid again. I think he's terrific. So what do you think about this young legend?
100%. And it's funny you mentioned that because I went with 3 of my friends, and 2 of them are full-time actors. One of them is one of my closest friends. He has a lot of acting background, and I have some acting background. We all, after coming out of that theater, were saying how Phillips's performance, like you mentioned, only has very few lines of dialogue. But as a child, he is able to deliver those few lines of dialogue with such desperation and such misery, and it's heartbreaking in the context of the film. And because he only has so few lines of dialogue, there's more importance on it.
Yeah.
And the fact that he is able to deliver as, you know, this super young child is incredible. And in a film of this genre, and like you said, with the effects and the gore that's happening, it's crazy. Yeah, same. I'm just blown away. And I'm also blown away from the rest of the cast too. I thought that I think he was the standout. However, like Sally Hawkins was awesome as Laura. Zora Wong, who's the young girl in the film, is really intriguing, and I found a lot of charm in Billy Barrett's Andy as well.
Yeah.
I it's great, and not to ramble on for too long, but the emphasis of their performances and Jonah Phillips's performance is a tribute also to the conscious decisions that the Philippou brothers made, like the way they introduce him with that wide shot of the cat just gnawing on him as he just sits in an empty pool. It just builds all these characters out in such a mysterious and irking way.
Yeah, I love you know, the character dynamics here I think are generally very good. I like Sally Hawkins' character of Laura. I think she's like a really compelling antagonist, and I also I like the sibling dynamic. When we get into like the talking about the stuff we didn't really love, I'll have more to say about them and their like specific dynamic. But I think the actors do a very good job. The acting all around I think is really good, and I agree that Billy is it Billy Barratt? Is how you say that? I think he's really good. I think he sells this like I don't know, like this PTSD, grief kind of like trying to push the emotion away. I feel like I can really feel that from him. And I love the way that the movie kind of handles all of them, except for Piper, because I feel like Piper. I guess I'll break into spoilers briefly. So she kind of becomes the main character at a certain point in the third act after Andy is killed, and I feel like the setup for her to be the main character isn't quite there because I feel like she exits the movie for a pretty substantial amount of time. It's not really an Ellen Ripley situation where she's always there and the transition feels natural. It kind of felt the opposite to me, where it's like, oh, we're going to kill our main character because that's like subversive and cool, which is fine. If there was a little more to Piper, I think that could be kind of shifted depending on how you see the movie. If Laura actually becomes the main character after Andy dies, which I guess is part of it. But generally speaking, I like the way that all of the cast is handled. I like that, like how much they're in the movie, whose perspective we're kind of following. It's not really following one person, which I think is interesting. Like when Andy blacks out, we see what Sally's doing, or when Sally's not home, we see what Andy's doing. That's sort of unusual, and if you're not like adjusted to filmmaking and screenwriting, you realize that like the POV of this movie is very dynamic and weird, which I like. I think it adds to the kind of chaotic nature of the movie of trying to piece everything together. And I love the way that the movie handles Ollie, especially where he's just kind of in the background. We don't like get too much attention where we're like from his POV. He's usually just kind of like walking around in the background, but he's so fucking freaky that it like really takes over the scene. And I love the confidence in the direction to know that like just him being there is enough for us to be kind of like on edge of like, what the fuck is going on with this kid? Who is that? Like, it's just terrific. I really like all of the cast. I think they do a great job.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there's a moment Piper's character is blind in this film. And I love that moment where you just like Laura's talking to Piper and you just see like a body move in the background.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Who is that?" And and then Laura responds, "Oh, it's just Ollie." And then that scene ends with that such creepy shot of Ollie's face just disappearing into darkness as he's like hovering over the freezer. And it's so good. You said we're gonna be moving into spoilers, so I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, we already spoiled Andy's death. I feel like just ride into it.
So audience members, if you haven't seen, stick around if you've seen. if you haven't, totally recommend. Like, it's such a great. If you love horror, you're not going to be disappointed. Yeah, this film is so brutal in all of its execution, and I love also going back to the filmmaking of how we are. Speaking of POV, I like how the filmmaking mirrors the POV a lot of the time. For example, when we first meet Laura, we're in Piper's POV. We're tracking Piper, but it's out of focus.
Yes, I noticed that too. The technique they do with Piper, where all of her like perspective shots are out of focus, is very cool.
Yeah,
it's nothing crazy. It's like sort of gimmicky, but I really like it. It's very cool.
I think it's subtle enough to be just like yes, you know,
yeah, like, nice.
And it is. What I love is that all those crazy moments, like Ollie passing by, like Andy's death, literally jaw-dropping. Literally, like I said, I went with my friends, and there were moments where my friends literally or moments where I got out of my seat, and our jaws dropped. We literally looked at each other left and right. I never get that from a film.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love it so much. And I'll cut my thoughts there because I have more thoughts, but I'll allow you to speak.
Sure. Yeah. So, you mentioned the gore. I don't want to get off the gore because I feel like everyone that's seen this movie knows that that's like one of the big talking points about this is that this movie is fucking disgusting. But it's disgusting in a effective way. It's not so much in a, now I don't know your feelings on the Saw franchise. Some of those later Saw movies I feel like are really gross just to be gross, like because that's like their thing. I feel like it complements this movie because this is a movie that deals with the demonic and the satanic and rituals and cults. And I feel like you could go hyper violent in spaces that are dealing with like Satanism. Because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand of like bloody and occult, and there's a lot of like circle imagery in this movie that I really like. We have, you know, even like the actual ritual itself is like the little circle on the forehead. But again, with the gore, it's consistently violent, and it adds to the severity of like the darkness in the home. Now, the violence itself is wild. There is a scene. The scene where Ollie gets a hold of a knife, and it is the only time in a theater recently that I've been like, oh, dude, no.
Yeah.
I just didn't even look at it.
Oh.
The sound design is horrible. The effects, unfortunately for me, the effect where they, you know, basically Ollie bites into a knife, as you know, right in his front teeth, and he's like and chewing on it. That looks horrible. Don't clip that. Oh my god. But he's biting this knife, and his fucking like front teeth have like a knife hole in it, and for the rest of the movie, his like chipped fucking bloody infected tooth is like right in his mouth, and he's always like kind of, you know, like making that creepy face. So you always see it, and it's disgusting, but it adds to him and his presence. They do more with him as it goes. I feel like he gets grayer, and his like hair kind of falls out. His eyes go bloodshot. He gets like a weird like pregnancy belly after he eats the lady, to the point where he just looks like fully demonic and terrifying, even though he's not lit in a way that makes him scary most of the time.
Oh yeah,
he's just like outside, like walking around, but he's like this disgusting, horrible creature. I love the scene where he is going through the fridge when Laura comes home, and she's like, Ollie, what are you doing? And he has like the big gallon of milk, and he's like takes like a huge fucking bite out of it, and milk like flies everywhere. It's just crazy. Like it's crazy gore. I mean, there's more instances of it. The like dead fucking little girl in the fridge is crazy, who's like rotting. Yeah, man, I don't know. I just think it sticks with you. It's like stylized, disgusting, horrible gore, but it adds to the tone. And I think that's really notable because it's not just gore to be like, wow, that movie had gore, like that was what it was all about. It's not. It feels like it was. It needed to be here. And I say that very rarely about like hyper violence and gore, but I felt like this movie really needed it.
Yeah. And to add to that point, right? And to complement that, the point that you made, it's the plot of the film is around gore. You know, like you mentioned, the ritual, and the part of the ritual is having to eat, consume, and purge. Right. And so it's fundamentally built into the concept and the mystery of the film of having to eat and consume and flesh and eat these dead corpses, and it's nasty. And I think you know, to add to your point, I think that's what it makes it so it is so well done, because it's baked into the foundation, into the plot, you know, and it is the leading force. You know, I love the milk scene. I love that entire scene where Ali is in his purging. He needs to eat the body, but he doesn't have it in front of him at that moment, so he's just eating everything. And
eats the table.
Yup.
That's another great section where he eats the table. It just holds on that too. You get to see him eat like half the fucking table. Oh, it's awesome.
That's my favorite, I think. Like, next to the knife, it's just his teeth just falling out of his face. Yeah. The wood chips. Oh, it's so nasty. It is so nasty. Yeah. And I also want to go back, while I'm just kind of rambling. I want to go back to how you said Ali is so mysterious a lot of times. Like, he's just standing there, he doesn't speak, right? We don't know what's going on. And I think that's what really complements the film. When we came out, we were saying, my friend was like, oh, like, I'm still curious, like, where'd she find the tapes from? You know, where's this ritual originate from? I don't think we need to know. I think a lot of the horror relies on a balance of the unknown and the known, right? And once you answer too many questions, then the mystery is gone and the horror dissipates along with that. Yeah. But we get just enough through really beautiful visual storytelling. It's never directly told to us, but we learn by watching the tapes with Laura, and we learn by just watching this unfold, like, layer by layer, like opening up an onion. And it's great. Like, we need more horror that is just like that. Just like that. It balances the line of all of that I mentioned, and that's good storytelling.
Yeah. So I'm gonna talk about both of the things that you just talked about. First off is the tapes. I was just talking with a friend who I went to see it with, and we were talking about how we both have this love for weird footage found within horror movies. Oh yeah. It's like such a strange, like, I don't want to call it a cliche because it's not in that many, but two movies came to mind. The first one was The Ring. Now, I love the American Ring. I do not like the OG Japanese Ring, personally. Ooh, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Ringu, but I like The Ring. Now, the tape in The Ring, for me, I love that movie, but I've always thought that the tape in The Ring has been the best part of it. It's freaky. I don't know what it means. You only get to see it like once. And it's like just this startling imagery that like fucks with the characters in the same way it fucks with the audience. And it's really effective. It provides like a cool, I don't really know what you call that. Like, just whatever. When the audience kind of feels the same way that the characters do because you're both watching something happen. That's a good like harmony to have. And I feel like that often happens when you have something that's being watched by the characters, right? The other movie, Sinister, which sort of builds around that movie. Have you seen that with Ethan Hawke?
I have not, actually.
So, without giving anything away, basically Ethan Hawke lives in this house, and he finds all of these tapes that have to do with a serial killer that had like killed people in that house. Oh. So he's watching the tapes and like doing research on it. And the tapes are the best part of the movie, again, because they're so mysterious and weird, and you don't know what's going to be on them. And the character is like with you in that. It's like weird, comfortable horror where you almost feel like you're with the guy or the gal that's watching the tapes, and you're like there with them, like, oh my God, like, you know, you're in the mystery, right? And I love that. And this movie does that phenomenally. I think the tapes here are like crazy and scary and grainy, and the imagery is fucking wild. I love the opening with this is not a cult. Great line. Killer, like, weird text to put on screen. Yeah. Because it makes you think then, like, well, then what is this? Like, who are these people? Like, how did they figure this out? How did Laura figure this out? They look like they're in like a school gym or like a YMCA or something. It's just really scary shit where it's like, you know, there's some real like occult activity going on here. And it again, it adds to that like whole satanic element that this film has that I think it does so effectively. And I just love it, love it, love it. So the other big mystery that you were talking about is Ollie. Now, Ollie, I don't know if it was a me thing. I got a little confused at a certain point in this movie, and I really think it just had to do with one thing, which is one sort of extraneous reveal, I felt, which is that the kid's not Ollie. It's a kid named something Bird.
Yeah, Connor Bird.
Connor Bird, right. And we get a great reveal when he writes the bird on the piece of paper, and then you see the name of the bird. I caught that in the theater, and I looked at my friend. We were like, oh, that's what it was the bird. You know, so that's cool. But I was a little confused because Ollie's not in this boy. He's not in Cameron, right?
Ollie was just the name that Laura gave the boy.
To pretend that like it was a nephew, like to cover, was that like sort of the idea there? Because for a second I got confused if Ollie, the boy, was literally in Cameron.
Yeah, you're talking about her son that passed away, or
was that her? I thought that was like a nephew or her son. Cameron with the orange hair, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the kid in the pool video. That's her son,
or
that's what I'm saying.
Now I'm
forgetting. I get a little confused.
It's been a couple days. My interpretation of it was that Ollie was just a name of it was a cover up. Okay. It was just a cover up of like. Because she was trying to bring back her daughter, right? But then she was using the whole curly red hair Oliver, who was a person in her life, not her daughter,
right?
As a cover up because she kidnapped Connor Bird to like use this child,
right? To say basically this is like my son or my nephew or whatever, and just fake it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. I got a little mixed up with like the writing there of just like why we were, because the way they treated the Connor reveal, or sorry, the Ollie reveal, felt like it was bigger than I think it actually is in the movie. Whereas there are lines that I feel like are way bigger that aren't given that much oomph as that line. For example, the line that kind of reshaped my whole opinion of like, or I guess my perception of what was happening, was she says that like, you know, an angel came to us or whatever. I think is how she phrases it to Andy or maybe the social worker at some point. And then I immediately went to, oh, like the angel is the kid, is Ollie. Like whatever's in there is the angel she's referring to, which is, you know, likely the angel of death, you know, is Lucifer, is the devil, is in that little kid. That kind of reshaped how I saw it. And then again, I thought back to the Ollie nephew thing. And I was like, wait, so is Ollie in there or is the devil in there? And I had like an actually moment in the theater. So I got a little fuzzy. And there's a couple instances with that where I felt like you really have to pay attention to the tapes and what's going on with the actual ritual itself to like fully understand what's going on, especially by the end when you get to the pool. And there was a couple things I was a little fuzzy on. And I agree with you. I think it's good to be like generally not sure. But I think it occasionally was on the line of like, I don't really know what the fuck's going on right now, and not in like a good way. It was a tight balance. I don't think it's like that for most of the movie. I agree with you generally. There's a couple instances where I was like, but I mean,
yeah, I totally understand that. I totally understand. I don't think it bothered me as much, but there definitely is some more mystery to. At the time, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not certain at this, but I know my interpretation. Like, that was my mindset of like, it's not definite proof, but I'm just going to stick with my interpretation because that's what I believe, you know? So I definitely agree with that. I want to go back to the whole conversation with the tapes.
Okay.
How you mentioned the found footage within horror movies. And I love that you brought that up. Because it's funny enough, my friends and I had that exact same conversation. And I think it has to do with our generation, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. Like we see scary things through media so often.
Yeah. And analog horror is a big thing within our generation. And I all like some of my most terrifying moments in horror as a genre has been scenes just like that, where it's a scary tape. Japan does a lot of that, obviously the original Ring being from Japan. But I think of Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Pulse and Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure. Pulse is literally all about digital analog horror.
That's so crazy you brought up Cure. I'm watching that tonight.
Oh, actually?
Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, I'm not going to hype it up too much, but I love Cure.
Okay, sick.
I love Cure. Not to get too off topic, but it's very hypnotic film, very slow, but it's, in my opinion, it's great. And there's a scene in that, found footage, nothing bad's happening, but it's so eerie and it irks me. And Pulse, the entire film is about digital analog horror. There's some terrifying scenes in that. In Park Chan-wook's Lady Vengeance, there's a child suicide that is filmed, and that is so disturbing. And just in general, I could go on and on of like listing different examples from different films, but it's funny because I can list all those examples. Those are the scenes that stand out. I know exactly from the top of my head, and I love the inclusion of that in this film. And our generation, I think, growing up on analog horror and growing up with the digital space makes it so irky. You know, it makes it so, I don't know, it's like something we're used to or something we're not used to.
There's something there, I think, for sure. And I like that this movie explores it, kind of, which is just this idea that, like, I think watching footage of, like, scary, horrible things, fictional or not, sort of puts you there in a way that nothing else really can. You know, you're not in any physical danger, but you're also not just hearing about it where you feel distant from it. You're in like a sort of in-between where you're seeing everything as it happened and you're almost absorbed into the space, but you're not quite there. And I think that the way that this movie is able to kind of put you next to Laura when we're watching those tapes, it captures that feeling really, really well for me.
Oh, yeah. And I 100% agree. And I think, honestly, my last point that I can make out from the top of my head, leading this point into the other, the tapes, like you said, this is not a cult. These are, we're assumed they're regular people. And Laura is a regular person. And that is what really gets me at the end of this film, because it's honest. I think it'd be so less effective if it was like, you know, a group of people in hoods and they're like, I'm a cult, right? No, like the terrifying nature of wanting to bring back a loved one, and it's just a normal person. It's just your neighbor. It's your counselor.
Everybody has experienced that loss, you know. And it feels very universal in a way. I so agree with you. That's such a great point. The restraint to not have them painting pentagrams all over the place, and you know, it's like the tapes are kind of joyous in a lot of ways. Like everyone's like happy and hugging and like crying, but not like out of fear. It's out of like, oh my good, like look how amazing this is. Yeah, I guess, which is a great transition to just like the overall kind of themes of this movie being like grief and loss and what you would do to bring someone back, and like the horror that accompanies loss. Really good stuff. So much horror is about trauma, almost to the point where sometimes it's cliche and annoying. I think here it's specific enough and it's saying something interesting enough that I give it a full pass. What this movie's talking about with grief is really cool, and it's powerful. I like that. I'm losing my train of thought. I like the ending of this movie, where Laura is really a piece of shit this whole movie because we're with Andy. And if you're watching it from Andy, she pisses his pants. That's crazy. She, you know, it's the only time in cinema I've seen someone piss somebody else's pants. The level of gaslighting that she goes through to like turn these siblings against each other is like so fucked up, and it makes you like really root against her. But then as the movie kind of comes together and like you draw the parallel between the tapes and her and what she's doing with the ritual, and you see her break down and get desperate, you kind of sympathize with her a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's like really hard to do. With the shit that she does in this movie, where she's like a despicable bitch of a character.
Yeah.
By the end of it, and they have that great shot where they're like coming up in the bird's eye from the pool. You're kind of like, damn, like poor lady, you know, like it sucks. It's evil in a way that's like more universal, you know. It's just fucked up.
Yeah, and in a way, you feel dirty for feeling that way.
Yeah,
you know, and it's such a heartbreaking, it's disturbing last shot. It's an incredible last shot to end on. And you nailed it perfectly. You know, how far would you go to bring a loved one back, or, you know, etc. within the genre? Yeah, it's great. So it's so good.
Let me pose a question to you, because when I first walked out of the theater and I was talking with my friends about it, I said that I didn't love the last half hour. I think I've warmed up on it since thinking about it and like thinking over like the themes and the meaning and everything since. But when I first left, I thought, you know, I think it would have been better if she actually accomplished it. Like if she really turned Piper like into her daughter and like brought her daughter back. I don't know why I felt that way, and I think it came from a desire to kind of I think it came from that sympathy that I was feeling for her, and just like the emptiness that I got from the end of the movie, where like there's no good ending. None of these characters get a good ending, and I think maybe it was part of me that said like, you know, if we could have had her actually get the kid back, it could have opened this really good moral question of like, well, was it worth it? Like, did she actually accomplished what she wanted? Like the bad guy won, which is usually good for horror, if it's a bad ending. And yeah, I don't know. I thought that would have been interesting because, but I also don't know if that's from my like annoying questions that actually should not have been answered of like, well, what's it like when you bring somebody back? You know, are they just like a normal person, like, hey, how are you? Or are they like scary demon back, like Ollie? You know. But how do you think that would have gone?
I disagree, to be honest. I don't think I would like that, because, you know, I feel sympathy for her because of what the film gives us, but at the end of the day, like, I still like really hate her. Like I said, I feel dirty for feeling sympathy for her.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I did like the kids so much, and I felt so bad for them, and they're just innocent at the end of the day, that I didn't want her to win at all. I think I'd be very mad if she won.
I agree with you.
You know,
I don't want her to win, but for the sake of the movie. See, all right, so I
get that.
Yeah, I write a lot of horror, and I feel like when you get to the ending, most of the time I hate the third acts of horror movie. This is a good third act, don't get me wrong. Marginally better than most horror movies, but I feel like it's good to let the bad guy win in horror movies. And here, I guess if the bad guy is grief, it kind of wins. But I don't know, man. I kind of wanted to see that like nasty demon kid come back.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. But even for the sake of the movie, from my perspective, I still don't think it would help the movie. Because then there would have been no emotional roller coaster. Because Laura's just winning and winning and winning and winning. Her plan is working for essentially the entire film. There's some obstacles in the way, but she's winning.
Yeah.
Like for the whole movie.
Okay.
It'd be like there would be no roller coaster, you know, like for example, like superheroes, we love them because they lose, but at the end of the day they get themselves back up and they save the day and they beat the bad guy. With this, through the POV of Laura, she's winning, and then if she just wins at the end too, it'd be just kind of like,
I understand what you're saying.
All right, that's fine, I guess.
Yeah, I get you. That's really valid. And I like that it's sort of, she can't bring herself, like she actually loves Piper. Is kind of like what really sets her off, is like she realizes she can't hurt Piper. Maybe she sees her daughter in Piper, you know, and that's a great metaphor, and like kind of connects to the whole like literal ritual of the movie. So Andy's dead. Laura's very sad and going to jail forever. Piper lost her brother, and she's in a car at the end. Where is she? She didn't drive.
Yeah, well, just the random civilians picked her up.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, she runs out into the woods and gets picked up. So I guess she's probably going back into child services. Ollie is back.
I thought Connor Bird is back.
Right, that's what I meant. Sorry, Connor's back. Yeah, that was another thing I was a little confused about because the demon devil is the one possessing Ollie and doing the ritual. It chases after Piper a little bit after the fact. Like, you know, Laura can't do the ritual. And I guess Ollie got like pissed off and was like, well, I want to do the ritual. And then he fucking like went after her for a second. So I assumed, you know, going with the like, oh, well, Ollie's like possessed by the devil thing. I was like, oh, damn, like what's going to happen with him? And then he leaves purposely and like brings back Connor. I thought that was a little strange because I feel like why would the devil like want to leave this boy? You know, but I guess maybe it was just like, well, fucking nothing's gonna happen here. Fuck it, I'll go on to somebody else and left. I thought that was a little strange, but I do like that poor Connor got to survive. That's nice. Yeah. He's gonna be messed up, but you know, it's not really a good ending. That's what I'm saying. There's no good ending here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like how this all comes together. I think the ending in this movie is a lot better than most.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I think it was good discussion.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? The last thing I want to talk about, and I'm curious because I feel like you'll probably like it more than me. Another like flaw I had with this movie, I didn't really feel the chemistry between Piper and Andy.
Yeah.
And I know that that's somewhat intentional because this is a movie about them becoming distant and falling apart. Like their family dynamic is sort of shifting. But Piper, as I said, is very in the background. She doesn't really feel like she's a central character, and we get a lot of time with Andy to like flesh him out. I think the grapefruit thing sort of solidified that to me because it feels like something that they put in the movie to show you like these siblings have a bond. It was in like a fourth draft of like, look, they have like a little code word they use with each other. And I think that just sort of highlighted to me that like, they're not like that, like, they don't seem that tight. You know, like on a scene by scene basis. Like they're I think we needed a scene post Laura introduction of Andy and Piper just being like, yo, listen, like let's just talk this out and be real with each other. I don't know if we really get that. There's a lot of scenes like that before Laura, but once Piper gets to Laura, I feel like she falls into her little web way too fast. And we don't get to experience the grief of Andy being like, Piper, like, please, you've got to trust me until it's like way too late. And then she's like, oh, he punched me or whatever happened, right? And then it's just like over. So, yeah, I don't know. I felt like that could have used a little work, but what do you think?
I actually 100% agree with you.
Okay,
and I think that's what stops this from being like an entire masterpiece is that the film was so well done, but there are moments where as a whole, sometimes it doesn't like, because I liked Sora Wong and Billy Barrett's characters individually.
Yeah.
And I actually 100% agree. That was like, I love them individually. They had such great performances, but then at times it almost feels like they're just actors and not actually, you know, like
you know what it is?
Brother.
It feels like if one of them wasn't in the movie, the plot of the other wouldn't change.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of the issue is that siblings and the way that the movie wants to build it is that they're so close. It should feel like without the other one, like like the intertwinedness of the two of them, it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
But it does. I think it works fine if only one of them exists. I mean, bearing all the plot holes that would be in like the ritual or whatever. If it's just Andy's like arc, he doesn't like it has nothing to do with Piper really. And Piper's arc doesn't really have much to do with Andy. I mean, you know, you get it. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't want to sour, you know, like final thoughts on the movie with a thing that I didn't like. I think this is really great. I think it's a cool second outing for these pair of directors that are really, you know, I'm going to keep my eye on. I like Talk to Me a lot. You should watch that. You should check that out. Viewer, you should check out Talk to Me. And you should also check out this movie. It's very good. You have any final things you want to say? Or
not really. I think I said everything.
All right. Sweet. Yeah, I feel the same way. So we hope you enjoyed the review.
Wait, do you want to give scores?
Oh, true. Sorry. Yeah. So you said you wanted to raise your score.
Ooh, yeah.
You still want to raise your score?
I could start.
Okay,
I could start. So, I think.
That was contemplated.
I think. You know what? I'm gonna give it a solid 9. I'm gonna give it a solid 9.
Ding, 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 ding.
Solid 9. Yep. I was contemplating an 8.5.
Okay.
But honestly, like, it's really good. It's really good. Originally I came out of the theater with an 8, but I really loved it. And all throughout our discussion, the only flaws I have are quite minor, you know, and we talked about those flaws. So I'm giving it a 9. I'm giving it a 9. It's just, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm in a similar boat to you. When I came out of this movie theater, I said, this is an 8 out of 10 movie.
Yeah.
But after our discussion and thinking it over, I think that this is an 8. I stand the same way, dude. Plot twist, bam. Yeah, I'm as stubborn as an oak, dude. I know where I stand on this movie. Yeah, no, I think it's very good.
Yeah.
I think a 9, though, for me personally, is like a 9 is like everything about this movie is borderline perfect. There's just like a couple little things that could have done to give it like an extra bit of like oomph, and that would have like really made it a masterpiece for me. And I don't think it's quite at that 9 level. There's some flaws I have with this movie. There's like some certain scenes that I don't like really care for. Like we said, there's some like character stuff that I'm like, and like confusion stuff.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, this is a great time. I had a lot of fun with it. The violence and the gore will stick with me. Maybe forever. That fucking knife scene is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The table eating scene is crazy. One of my favorite child performances ever. He's incredible in this movie. I will keep my eye on this this young actor. Great time.
Oh yeah.
So if you enjoyed our review, our discussion on the Cinewave podcast, we have so many more for you. There's so many videos. I haven't been in too many of them. Sorry, people. I'll be back. But there's so many movies and TV shows and series and anime that we're covering. I'm not going to name out specifics because you could scroll, you see all of them. There's so many things. Anything that you can think of, it's probably being covered. We're on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are on YouTube. We're updating all of our stuff. Have you seen it on Instagram? It looks great. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. We have new graphics. Zach has been doing a fantastic job, and whoever else is managing the Instagram, it looks incredible. We have a new table. Look, we're coming up in the world, guys. So get on board. Get on board now. It's like investing in crypto. You can hop on. It's 2013. Yeah. It's 2013. The Bitcoin just came out. You want to be a billionaire? You start watching our channel. Thank you. I've been Sean Villa.
And I've been Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you soon.
This is The Culture.